Well, thank you all for joining us for today's Backpacks to Briefcases Wind Down Wednesday, Navigating Alcohol in the Workplace. I'm Greg Berry, Director of Communications in the UAB Office of Alumni Affairs. Since we're virtual, please excuse technical issues or glitches that may pop up. If you have issues with your video or audio, click the Reconnect button on your screen to get back to the webinar right away. Also, we are recording today's webinar to be uploaded onto our website. If you have questions for Kenya, please place them in the chat. We'll have time for Q&A at the end of her presentation. Today's webinar can earn you credit toward the Backpacks to Briefcases Evergreen Certificate. The series features 4 main events each year with topics ranging from finance to workplace skills. Between each, you have the chance to earn golden electives. These are things like lunch and learns, networking events, and volunteer opportunities. To receive an Evergreen Certificate and lapel pin, all you have to do is complete all 4 Evergreen events and 2 golden electives. These don't have to happen in the same calendar year. You can just hop on at any time. Want to learn more? Visit alumni.uab.edu/backpacks. Today, we are excited to welcome Kenya Harris. Kenya is the Assistant Director of Substance Misuse Prevention with Wellness Promotion in the UAB Division of Student Affairs. A 2-time UAB alum, Kenya got her bachelor's degree in psychology in 2020 and earned her master's in social work in 2022. At this time, I would like to officially welcome Kenya Harris to the webinar and turn things over to you. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I hope that everybody's midday is going good. Let's get started. We already kind of introduced who I am, but again, I am Kenya Harris. I am the Assistant Director of Substance Abuse Prevention and Wellness Promotion, so a Department of Student Affairs. And I kind of just want to give a background on like what my department does and kind of what we're going to discuss today. So basically, my department, we provide information and education to students, and our basis is through harm reduction and prevention methods. So we're really just out here to educate students and inform them to give them information that they can make good decisions and choices. We have recently started to do more branching out to different departments and taking that same type of information and applying it to different areas at UAB. So I'm really excited to do this kind of program that we're doing today because it's a little bit different from what we usually do all the time. So yes, I am excited. I hope y'all learned something today. That's the only thing, that y'all learned something new that you didn't know before, or something that you could use or tell somebody else about, right? So basically, Wind Down Wednesday. I thought of this name. I don't know. It just kind of came up. And today we're just going to go over ways that we can really navigate alcohol in the workplace. Our programs are not really about abstinence or saying that you shouldn't or should do something, but it's really based on, like I say, giving information so that your choices and decisions are very informed. Everyone in the room has probably had some experience with alcohol, either positive or negative. So we really just want to today give information and really just give a chance to where if you do decide to drink alcohol in professional settings or just in general, because some of these things can be applied outside of work, but as well. But we want to make sure that you are comfortable with your decision and you're informed on what's happening and what's going on. Please feel free to drop any questions. As Greg stated at the end, we will have a question and answer. So just, yeah, I'm ready to start. So let's get into it. All right, so alcohol in the workplace, right? What are some ways that alcohol in the workplace might cross paths? If you want to think about like happy hour, recruitment situation, holiday parties, networking, right? What these things do typically have in common. Most of these things are like low cost and risky. And if we think about compared to what most of these things are and compared to what are the risks associated with alcohol and drinking in the workplace, I think the biggest risk is, of course, social supervision pressure. So the pressure to kind of go to these work events or participate in these holiday parties or networking events, right? So, all right, and when we talk about the positive and negatives of these things, right? So the positives of going to these things are, of course, you get to socialize, meet new people, talk about like, you know, goals for your department or office. Networking is always good, especially if you're a professional and you're trying to really make your place or, you know, do a good job at what you're doing. Just networking, you know, how important networking is, camaraderie. So, you know, team bonding with the people that you work with outside of, and also to learn about a company. But when you compare it to the negatives, so if you think about kind of what are the negatives associated with alcohol in the workplace. So of course, there's opportunity for reputations to be diminished or created, blurred boundaries of what is acceptable and not acceptable. Alcohol kind of course, allows people to have a loose tongue when it comes to things. So maybe a situation that was smaller in the break room that happened or something could be blown out of proportion. Getting involved in office gossip is something, and overconsumption, so drinking way too much in the setting, and also too poor judgment when it comes to making decisions. So these are all risks associated. So there's really like a scale of positive and negatives. It's just really trying to figure out we're just really trying to figure out where that board or where that balance plays out, right? All right, so we have a video coming up. Let me see.
Pictures all along the way, and the best and craziest thing that happens will be on the cover of the newsletter. Incentive.
You do realize that we can't serve liquor at the party.
Yeah, I know. Damn it. Stupid corporate wet blankets. Like booze ever killed anybody.
Oh, I think the video played out. Not sure.
Can you? Yeah, the video's over. You can go ahead and go.
Okay. So, well, it was a clip from The Office. I don't know. It kind of got cut short. I don't know. Everyone knows kind of how media describes work parties and outings and those like wow Christmas parties that a lot of movies and media really try to portray or show. And also, too, this could kind of seem a concept of mixing social, so work and play. You know, oftentimes media is, or it's unspoken word that work and play is not supposed to happen at the same time. But I think as we go further into this presentation, we can really talk about how some of those preventative measures could really be used so that there is a healthy relationship with being social and getting, you know, every day's work done in the workplace. All right, so alcohol basics. You want to get and keep a job, right? So thinking about alcohol and resulting in what alcohol does, just per se, the science part of it. So when someone drinks alcohol, there are lower inhibitions, increased confidence and talkative, impaired reaction time, coordination, attention, altered perceptions, dehydration, and indigestion, so GI trouble, gastric intestinal trouble, indigestion, and heartburn. So these are just things to think about. If you feel like you're losing these inhibitions, you feel like you might say something inappropriate, I think it's time that you make the best decision to go home or leave the premises, because these negative effects of alcohol could potentially damage or disrupt work and production that is being done in the workplace. All right, so this next slide is really just, once again, knowing more facts about alcohol. So I think the two most important things about this slide is that knowing that your body only processes one standard drink per hour. And when I say standard drink, that's kind of like how, you know, when we eat, we have serving sizes of meals. So there's also serving sizes with drinks as well. And all drinks are different. Different types of drinks have different types of standard pouring or standard drinks. So for regular beer is about 5% alcohol. Well, based on what kind of beer it is, because some beers have higher level of alcohol content, but the standard drink size for that is 12 fluid ounces. Malt liquors, so these are your Strawberritas or Mickeys. Those things are about 7% alcohol, and the standard size drink for that is 8 to 9 fluid ounces. For wines, and of course, certain wines have different alcohol content or alcohol percentages in it. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The standard size for that is 5 fluid ounces, and also too, so for 40% alcohol, so these are your whiskey, your gins, your rum, your vodka, tequila, those types of things. The standard fluid ounces for that is 1.5. And I think that there's a video after this. Yes.
I apologize. For some reason, that video is not playing. We've never had this much problems with our videos in the past, Gideon, so I apologize if the first one got cut short. This one does not want to run. So let me try something quick as we come on back on board here. I do apologize to the audience too. This is something obviously we don't want to have. So let's see. Try one more thing, and unfortunately, it's not going to. Unfortunately, it won't work. So let's go ahead and continue, and I apologize for that. So we'll get this back up. There we are.
All right, so basically the video was just showing a person that went out into the public and asked people what they thought a standard drink looked like. And I just really wanted to show you all what that looks like per se in a glass or a cup or different types of glasses and bottles, because we would think that we know what a standard size drink, but most of the times we're not really aware of what that looks like in retrospect. So I think the biggest thing is that all drinks are not created equal. Different alcohol contents and percentages vary by what is put. One cup does not necessarily mean that that's one drink, so one standard drink. So these numbers are the standard drinks that we have set. And also too, one tip, the higher the percentage, the less amount. As you can see, the 40% alcohol, obviously the measurements are way smaller than a beer or wine compared. So the higher the alcohol percentages, the less I should have. And also to paying attention to alcohol percentage. All right, next. All right, and then we're just going to also to get into the science of BAC and understanding what blood alcohol content is. So, of course, blood alcohol content is the amount of alcohol in your blood. And a lot of people don't realize the different things that affect BAC. Every person's BAC could be affected differently based on certain things. So things such as gender / hormones, weight, food, strength of drink, and rate of consumption. Hormones play a bigger role than people think. For example, since estrogen is broken down in the liver, the body prioritizes estrogen or processing estrogen over alcohol. So thinking about people who were assigned female at birth, that may look different versus someone who was assigned male at birth, because those take into play. Testosterone also plays a important role in creating dehydrogenase, which women, females do not have in their body. So there's an enzyme that helps break down alcohol faster that men have or males have that women or females don't have in their body. Weight also too plays the amount of weight plays into the absorption weight of alcohol, because if a body has more fat around it, fat is harder for, it makes it easier or harder to, or slower to absorb alcohol, versus someone who has more muscle. It can be consumption and have it, alcohol can be absorbed way faster and easier. Food is so important when it comes to alcohol consumption. A lot of people think carbs is the way to go when drinking alcohol, but in actuality, it's not. It's actually protein, because carbs burn really fast. And in order to have drinks going at a steady pace and where it's not absorbed so quickly, it's really important that we eat protein and fiber, foods that are high in protein and fiber. You could think about how many times I ask people what to eat before drinking, and a lot of people say carbs, but in actuality, it's protein. So try to eat something solid, more solid, that takes longer to break down versus carbs, crackers, or bread, or something of that nature. Also, to rate of consumption, I think is important. So as I talked about earlier, the liver can only process one drink an hour. The liver is the only organ in the body that absorbs alcohol. So therefore, if someone was to drink so many drinks in 1 hour so fast, it's just putting your liver into overtime. And that is very shocking and shocking to your liver, trying to overtime at work. So that's why it's recommended that you drink one standard drink per hour, so that you can give your liver time to effectively absorb it and reproduce and do what it needs to do, and also to keep your BAC level at a steady pace. All right. So understanding binge drinking is very important. So as I stated before, your BAC is affected by your weight, gender, and muscle mass. I like to do this little analogy with binge drinking. So I think about if you marinate a piece of steak or a piece of chicken, and you get the piece of steak, and in the muscle, it is the meat itself. So we try to tend to not get meat that is more lean, less fat, because therefore the marinade can really like sit and get into the pieces of meat, versus if something was had the piece of meat had more fat around it. I think that is a good analogy to talk about how alcohol is absorbed in the blood. As I stated before, muscle absorbs alcohol more than fat does. So it is recommended that women or assigned female at birth drink 4 drinks per hour, 4 standard drinks over a period of time, versus men, their drinks should be 5 drinks per hour. And this says in about 2 hours. But once again, if you're using those methods of spacing it out and not binging and just going really fast at one time, then that allows your body time to process what is going on. And also, too, I think another thing to bring up, 2 guys that are 2 different sizes may absorb alcohol slower or faster. So that's why it's just really important to understand kind of your anatomy and what your makeup is and what that looks like with alcohol consumption. All right, let's talk about some negative consequences of drinking and what this could look like in a workspace. So, of course, becomes poor judgment, embarrassment, inappropriate behavior, hangover, blackout, poor work performance the next day, drinking and driving. So these are all things that essentially could affect and bring a negative consequence to a workspace or office. If we are talking from somebody was drinking the night before and trying to come in and work and be productive, or some during a social event at like I said, the Christmas party, what that looks like, or after hours going to like a happy hour or things like that. So these are all negative consequences that could be increased if someone is doing that kind of that binge drinking really fast at one time. Also, too, this is really the negative side, right? So remember in the beginning, I talked about getting the good and the bad and really trying to see what outweighs what. These are just things that I think we should consider and take into consideration when invited to these situations or invited or at these situations and places and things. All right, next slide. All right, so these are just some tips. As I mentioned, my department is really big on showing and teaching protective factors. So what are some ways you can stay in control during a social event, including alcohol? So I think first it's important to set a limit. I'm only going to drink so much and so much when I go to this work party. Limits could also be, I'm only going to stay here for like how many ever minutes, 10 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes, just to show my face, to say that I can have that social edge, but also still keep it professional. The second one is to pace your drinks to 1 per hour. So as I stated, we don't want to overwork our little one liver, our one organ that is doing the processing. So give your liver some time to process 1 drink at a time versus drinking 4 drinks in 1 hour or binge drinking. Keep track of how many drinks you have. There are some really good apps out there that help people track their drinks. I think one is called ALCMOD, so ALCMOD, and I forgot to put it in the slide, but if anybody wants to know more about those, I can easily tell them about those. But it's a good way to keep track of how many drinks you've drunk in the past hour or at a social setting. Alternate between non-alcoholic and alcoholic drinks. This is the tip that I always like to give. So drinking a drink and then in between drinking water or like Sprite or something and then drinking another drink. Just a way to keep that pace going. Eating before and while drinking, I think is important, as we talked about. Eating those proteins. I mean, you can eat carbs, but I would not rely my whole, preparation for drinking to be just eating carbs. Eat something solid, protein, fiber, and also foods that are high in fiber. Of course, we know don't ever drink and drive. The legal limit, and I'm gonna just state this for those who may or may not know, the legal limit for the blood alcohol content, or BAC, for people over 21 is 0.08. And if someone is under 21, the legal limit is 0.02. So just to keep that in mind. Designated drivers, Ubers. There are so many ways that we can intervene with driving, not drinking and driving. And also, too, I think this is one important, and it takes skills and practice, is developing effective refusal skills. This is harder than a lot of people think it is, but finding your own way and what makes you comfortable, I think, is important. Like for me, example, I'm not the type to be direct with things. I like to joke around and be funny. So if it's me joking and saying, oh, I'm good or something, or making a joke, that's my way of refusing. I think like I said, it takes really practice. It takes a lot to be refuse things, but I think in the long run, if we get comfortable with refusing and saying what we will and won't do, I think it's important and could potentially save a situation that could be harmful to us. All right, so let's talk about drinking before work. So I found in studies that most performance-related problems are linked to drinking before work and people showing up to work with hangovers. So hangovers could include feeling sick at work, taking more sick days, which could affect, especially if you have a job where your part is important with the process, or it involves the process of something, how important it is to like find somebody or like calling out, right? We know about what that looks like. Sleeping on the job, obviously going to sleep on the job and not getting anything done. Trouble with tasks or coworkers, so doing something you probably do every day and you're trying to come into work and battle this headache or these other hangover symptoms that you have. body weakness, and sensitivity to light and sound. So these are just a few things, kind of looking at what that looks like with having a hangover and trying to be productive in a space. All right, so the biggest thing about prevention of hangovers is that first thinking about what your work schedule looks like the next day before choosing to drink the night before or whenever. If you know that you have a presentation to present at 7 o'clock in the morning, just think about what that looks like for you and what that would look like if you were to show up and do a presentation and you have a hangover, your head hurts. Also, too, there are ways to prevent hangovers. So hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. So drinking water is really important when it comes to prevention of having those really nasty hangovers. It will not lower your BAC, but it will help with that dehydration part because alcohol dehydrates the body. Once again, pacing your drink. So doing that thing to where you're not drinking really fast, rapidly, but more so maybe one here and one there. Also, too, eating. All of those preventative things that we talked about before will really play a part in kind of what will happen afterwards. Setting a limit. Also, too, having an early night, as I stated before, not staying the whole night out. Maybe just staying for an hour or an hour and a half, or knowing if I have to get up at 7 o'clock to present that presentation, maybe I don't need to be out this whole time, or just really taking these things into consideration before doing them. So preventing a hangover. As I stated before, alcohol is a diuretic, so it flushes out the body. I notice sometimes when people say when they drink, they have to use the bathroom a lot. It's because your body is trying to get rid of all the water in your body. Extra hydration is needed to prevent being dehydrated. So if you know you have a work setting to come up and you know there's going to be alcohol, make sure that you're drinking before. It's good to drink water anyway to just, replenish our bodies. But drinking extra if you know that you're going to be drinking prior to the event or setting. Also, like I said, drinking water while consuming. So doing that thing where you drink a drink and then you drink in between. That's a good thing to do. And as a last resort, to drink 8 ounces of water before bed so that when you wake up the next morning, you'll kind of feel, like I said, not as bad if you do have a hangover or something, but it's just a preventative measure. But as I stated, this is like the last resort of things to do. Yes. So just say we do have a hangover, right? The only thing, and I think a lot of people try to come up with these methods and, my aunt has this remedy that will cure all kind of hangovers. The only thing that will really cure hangover is time. There's no supplement, no food, or anything that will sober up a person faster. And then working with a hangover will certainly affect job performance, interactions with colleagues. There's so many things that affects if someone's coming into work with a hangover. So I think the best thing is just to think about those preventative measures and doing those things beforehand so we don't have to deal with after effects. And I think, is very important about medicine. I think a lot of people are unaware of these things and the interactions that different medicines can have with your body and drink alcohol. It's risky always to take pain reliever with alcohol to help with headaches or things like that. So just thinking about like Tylenol damages, in excess, Tylenol anyway damages that could damage the liver and processing alcohol. Ibuprofen / Advil and aspirin can be damage to stomach lining. So these are things outside that we know that a long use of taking these pain reliefs can happen, but with alcohol specifically, I think it just makes a bad mixture here. And also too, Aleve is considered to have the lowest risk, but still may lead to stomach bleeding. So if you had to pick out of all three, I think Aleve might be your best bet, but just keep in mind the risk that you're still taking with stomach bleeding and mixing with the alcohol. All right, so and I think too, thinking about, okay, so what if I don't drink? So I know I've learned all this information, and what if drinking is not something that I really wanted to do, or I don't feel like drinking, right? It's about you making a decision and your choice, right? You could drink non-alcoholic beverages. So soda, tonic water with lime, those are just good things to get. That could also be a barrier, or if you feel like your pressure to drink could be done. Asking for a Shirley Temple. Those are just small things, or keeping a cup in your hand is a way to where you can still feel like you're involved and nobody has to question, what you're drinking or whatever, if you just have those things. Ordering food instead, most of these social settings have really good food. So if you're at a party, if you're at a work party, like a Christmas party, there's somewhere going to be food there. Has to be food there, right? It won't be a good Christmas party if you didn't have good food. But those types of things, inviting coworkers to a fun event that does not involve alcohol. So I think the biggest thing is don't jeopardize your job for a $5 beer, right? Just because alcohol is served at most happy hours and after hours doesn't mean that you have to drink. You don't have to feel like you drink. You may be a non-drinker, or sometimes you may be triggered or too tired to drink. There's different reasons as to why we don't drink, but I think that it's important to really try to talk about the other side of the spectrum where drinking, you can also have fun and socialize and bond with your coworkers without having to drink. It's really the culture that you make. If you make the culture of the office to be that way, that's what it's going to be, or not. So I have a history in addiction, and so I think this is very important to add this into the presentation. So sobriety and abstinence are common nowadays. So those are things that people are doing, right? It's best to avoid triggering environments, especially if you're in early recovery, so that if that's a year or less, thinking about just me working in addiction and being in the treatment area, what that looks like. People, places, and things is something that we used to always talk about. As you're more comfortable in your sobriety, considering going out with a friend or a group of sober buddies, once again, just really holding people accountable. And like I said, I think this is important because I think a lot of people deal with these things and they might not discuss this at work or not, but I just really wanted to pay attention to this part of things. You are never under any obligation to participate in any event that you are uncomfortable at. So it's always important if you are someone in recovery, how important it is to always have that person that can hold you accountable and always have someone you can call if you feel like you might want to drink or if you're tempted, right? Your support system is very important. So I just really wanted to talk about that in this slide to cover those bases, because that's my background. That's what I come from in my graduate program, and I think it's important. All right, drinking at work. It is never a good choice to drink at work, even if it's a part of the office culture, right? Just because I'm in an office where people like to drink and the only way that they like to be social is drinking, there's always ways to just not be a part of that. Ensure others do not cross your boundaries. So being comfortable with the refusal, or setting that boundary up to be like, okay, if I go to this place, I need to set my boundaries and take into consideration how I feel and protect myself. Watching out for other inappropriate behavior. So if you see some things happening, say something, right? How effective is a work environment if there are toxic or negative things going on and nothing is being done about it? And if no one is paying attention to what's being said or taking into consideration of thing, I think it's very important that you find a place where they will pay attention and seek what you're saying and take into consideration how you feel about things. It's important to know that, there's a place that will always listen. There's always a better job. I understand that, times are different now and things are always happening, but I think that it's important to really think about your well-being and your health. So in summary, if you drink, play it safe. Think about what that looks like. What does that look like for me going into this setting, going into this place? What does it look like if I go to this party, if I go to this after event? Am I going to be able to control myself? So just thinking about those different preventative measures that I talked about, are those I'm going to take into consideration. Do I have time to plan? Do I have time to drink more water or eat a meal before I go to this place, or during, or am I going to go to work the next day? Practice polite refusal. So thinking about your way that works best for you. Like I said, I don't like to be direct with people. A lot of the times when it comes to stuff like this, I'm more of a distractor, or finding ways to make people laugh to get the attention off that. So thinking about, like what that looks like. And as I stated before, it only gets better when you practice these things. It's something that you have to keep doing in order to be comfortable with it. Keeping something in your hand. As I stated before, a good tip is, if you don't want to drink but you still want to be involved and around, get a cup, or ask for if you're at a bar or something like that, ask for the bartender to put tonic water in a martini glass. It looks like it would look like a drink, so you won't feel pressured. I think the biggest thing there is about feeling pressured, to feel like somebody's going to say something to you, or I have to do this or participate, or my boss is going to say this or say that. So just holding something in your hand could just really be a first line of defense for things. Knowing when to skip the party. So knowing your personal limits is important. Knowing when to participate and when to not participate is important. Also, to try to think about what your schedule looks like the next day. If you know you have a very important meeting the next day, think about what that looks like. These are just things that you really want to take into consideration, and choices, right? That's the most important thing, thinking about my choices. And I think the last and one of the most important things is change the culture of drinking at your job. You, as a person, a part of the establishment, has the ability to kind of house that. So when you're in planning meetings, or when you're in things, just say if you're planning a work Christmas party, maybe being the one to say, we don't have to have alcohol at this party, we can still have fun, or finding ways to really recommend to management and to administration about non-alcoholic social events or bonding events, right? There are ways to keep that social aspect, and the part that makes, because I think to have a good work environment, you have to have that type of bonding and camaraderie, of course, especially if you're working with a team. So you're the one that sets the tone for what the office is going to be. So just thinking about those types of things, and you being the change and creating a culture of what working in alcohol looks like in perspective, right? So that is all that I have today. Once again, I am with UAB Wellness Promotion. Our office is located in Student Health and Wellness on the 3rd floor. If anybody wants to ever come see, we offer trainings, we offer just different things, information. But if there are not any questions, then that's all I have for today.
Well, thank you so much. And if people do have questions, go ahead and toss them in the chat, and we'll have those answered by Kenya. And again, sorry for the audio and video issues. That's why we put the disclaimer at the very top,
Yes,
so
okay.
We do apologize. We want things to go as flawless as possible. So if you're going to drink, it is okay just to have that one glass, and you nurse it all night. And what you said, you can even put it in a martini, or put club soda in a martini glass, just to make it look like it is. So it's okay to have that comfort as you're going to an event, correct?
Right. It's really what works best for you. Some people can go into settings and be around people that drink and are not tempted at all, or some people are. And so I think that's something that I would do too. Go to the bartender and be like, okay, hey, can I get this to look like this? I love Shirley Temples. I love juice, and I love club soda. So yes.
So now, if you are going to drink, is there a rule of thumb? Is it better to stick with beer and wines because the alcohol percent is lower, or can you slide in, you know, I don't know, a glass of bourbon or something like that? Is there a rule of thumb in those situations?
So I think the most important thing is to remember about the standard drinks and alcohol percentages. So the higher the percentage, if that bourbon is a 40% alcohol level, thinking about what that looks like if you have 4 of those, or if the bartender gets a little happy and puts 4 or 5 shots in there, think about what that looks like. Really space it out and just kind of keep it in consideration. Okay, I know that a beer has this much amount in there, so I need to have this much. So, and I think it's too important if you're asking for like a can of beer, you can see the percentage. It is like state law that every manufacturer of alcohol has to put on there what percentage of alcohol each product is that they're making. So it's just really important to think about standard drinks and what that looks like. And remember, for women or females assigned at birth, the standard drink is four standard drinks, and for males or men, the standard drink is 5. So thinking about that really is important.
And I think the key word is, or phrase, is standard drink. For
Yes.
you and a coworker, it may be totally different, even if you share an office, because I know somebody was behind you, so I'm kind of picking on that, but it's going to be different from me to another friend as well. So you have to know what that standard is. I'm going to throw up the medicine slide. Marilyn Baker had asked to see this again, so I'm going to toss that back up, Kenya, so she can get a look at this. So what's your rule about receiving a drink from someone you just met, or we'll expand that, someone you really don't know?
Right. It's always, and I think this can apply to everybody. Of course, we teach it in college. I teach my students this when we're making presentations to people, thinking about what that looks like. I technically we teach not to receive drinks from people that you don't know and or trust. So if someone wants to buy you a drink or you receive a drink, I would say, how about we both walk to the counter and say, hey, this is the drink. Or can we have this drink, or this person is going to pay for this drink. I just always keep my eyes on my own drink. I would not accept drinks from someone who I don't know. The intention may be well. You always want to assume that everybody's intentions are pure, but there are situations out there where they are not pure. So we always try to talk about, and we teach the students, and I think this is just for anybody. I always tell people, if you're going to buy me a drink, let me walk over there with you so we can get it together versus this person from whoever sent you this drink. It's like, okay, I don't know. But thinking about, once again, your choices. I'm not telling you to do it or not to do it, but thinking about what kind of risk that will put you into is what's important.
And it's kind of the buddy system too. If you have a work buddy, they can help you and bail you out in certain times. Is that something that you teach to the students as well and suggest to young alumni?
Yes, definitely buddy system. I don't go anywhere by myself. I've always been taught you never go anywhere by yourself. I don't care if it's to the bathroom, if it's across the room or whatever. Of course, have space to be able to mingle and be social, but always having that person there to hold somebody or something accountable is very important.
Kenya, thank you so much for spending the last 45 minutes of your time spending with us, talking a little bit about how we can navigate alcohol through the workplace, whether it's at a social event or recovering even the next day, so you can perform to the top of your ability. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And just a reminder, today's webinar has been recorded. We will get that online soon. Don't miss out on the first ever Blazer Bingo at the Alumni House on October 6th. For $25, you'll get 6 boards to play 10 games each, a dauber, food, and a chance to win prizes. The cash bar will also be available. Just be smart with your decisions, as we've learned. Register for this at alumni.uab.edu/bingo. Bingo. Looking to earn credit towards an evergreen certificate? Don't miss out on other upcoming Backpacks to Briefcases events on Thursday, October 6th. Join us virtually at noon for Control the Controllables with April Coleman. This webinar will show us how to best approach day-to-day life so we can influence our overall well-being and success. And then on Wednesday, October 12th, be part of an interactive Blazer alumni and student networking night at the Alumni House. This is an in-person event geared towards juniors and seniors in college, and it'll give attendees a chance to network with others with similar career interests. Check out more on these events at alumni.uab.edu/backpacks. Finally, we'd love to get your feedback. Did you like today's webinar? Do you have ideas for future events? The QR code on your screen will take you to a short survey, and I do mean short. Take a minute to let us know how we're doing. Once again, thanks for joining us for today's webinar, and as always, go Blazers.